Please don't be surprised by what they're watching. Please be in the mix. Now, I'm not telling you that it's going to be easy to do. No, I'm not telling you it's easy to do. I'm saying it's actually important to do. I'm not telling you how to parent. I am saying it is important for you to know whose voices are filling your sons and your daughters and your students who may not identify in those binaries, what is filling their ears. It's over and over, we're hearing parents say, I didn't know. I didn't know what they were watching. I didn't know what they were listening to. And I'll just say, if you're paying the bill, you should know. As a male educator at your school site, it can get lonely. Only 23% of K-12 educators in America are male. And just think about what this gender gap means for your male students. They experience disproportionate levels of discipline. This is a show for male educators who want to feel more understood by their community and want to create emotionally safe classrooms and schools for the next generation of male students. Welcome to Unmasking with Male Educators. Hey, what's up, folks? This is Ashanti Branch, and we're talking with male educators. Today, I want you to go back and if you haven't listened to episode 18 with Trevor Slater, I really want to encourage you to go back and listen to that episode. There was a lot of conversation about Trevor and this idea of being an educator at a formerly all-boys school that is now becoming a school open to all students, and now the work that we have to do continually to make sure spaces are feel welcoming for young men and boys in our work. And there's a couple of topics that came up in our conversation that I want to reflect on, and they're going to be in layers. So I think I want to start with, I'm going to talk about the Andrew Tate saga that continues, this idea of the Manosphere. I don't know if you've heard of a movie called Manodrome. I'm going to briefly say a couple of words about the movie, The Manodrome. But in addition to that, I want to think about, and one thing about education being such a profession that has so few men already, 22, 23%, depending on how numbers are measured. So few men. And if you look at different levels of education, you know, there's more men in high school education, and then middle school gets a little lower, and then elementary, it's the lowest. And I think that also, as I think about how to weave this together, I think we can't not talk about what's happening in the Department of Education. We can't help not talk about the fact that there are people right now, and in this case, men, who are destroying elements of our existence, of our world, of our country, for the sake of money, for the sake of what they are calling saving money, to rid out corruption, to rid out abuse, to rid out fraud. I mean, they love saying those phrases together, right? Fraud, abuse. They want to get rid of fraud and abuse. They want to get out fraud and abuse, and yet what they have done, these people in power, mostly men, have brought to this country a person who was convicted, who was incarcerated, who was under investigation for fraud and abuse against women. Andrew Tate. Now, if you don't know the story, I'm encouraging you to go do your own research about what this man has done and what the stories are and what he has even admitted to doing, because he thought he was so powerful and brazen with his Manosphere, the community he built online, teaching young men and boys, whoever could pay the $49.99 a month, how to create your own online business, how to effectively get women to create webcam services, and then to give you the money. I'm not laughing, actually. I shouldn't even make it like I'm not even. It's not a laugh. It's actually a nervous reaction, because it actually makes me really angry, frustrated. When he talks in interviews about taking advantage of men who are just trying to figure out how to get and talk and attract women, The fact that he knows he's taking advantage of them. The fact that he says in interviews, you know what? Hey, if I didn't take their money, somebody else would. It tells you that his care about the people in what he calls a community is so limited. And some of the behavior that you will see most recently with these coins and with these other things are nothing more than abuse of that so-called community. Now, I'm not going to get too much into the weeds of that guy because I think I'll just need you to be aware that if you're a parent, if you are an educator, if you are a teacher and you are teaching young men, that some of these young men may see you as much less than them. They may see you as just a being there to make men feel satisfied. Now, I'll give you an example. We were running a program at a middle school, and one day, one of the middle schoolers, he's 11 years old, maybe 12. He was in the 6th grade. He came up and he was like, "Hey, Mr. Branch, who is your idol? Who's one of your idols?" And I was like, let me think. Like today, who's one of my idols? I was trying to like put myself back in his shoes in his day when when I was his age. And I was like, okay, middle school, I was a big fan of wrestling. I was a big wrestling fan, WWE, and probably, one of the big orators of the time. And, I would have had somebody like that. I think I was naming who I could think of when I was 12 or 11. And he said, you know who my idol is? I said, oh yeah, please tell me. He said, motherfucking Andrew Tate. Now, I didn't know. I said, when I didn't quite catch all the sentence. I heard the last name, and then I'm like, what did he just say? And I asked him, I said, say that again? He's like, I said, say the whole thing again. It's okay. I can handle the profanity. I just wanted to hear what you all said. And he's repeated the whole thing. Motherfucking Andrew Tate. And I was like, oh, yeah. Now, in my mind, because I know about at least what I have heard and what I've read and what I've watched the man admit to doing, I said, oh, tell me more. I'm really curious. I know that my job right now is to stay neutral in this conversation. I got to say neutral. And I got to say curious. I have a belief. And I have to be careful that I'm not trying to like spread my belief because young men will pick up quickly when you're trying to judge them. And so I don't want to judge. I'm concerned that this young man, who is a very beautiful young man, but some of the behaviors that he demonstrates, some of the behaviors that he shows his peers began to become more clear why he treats people the way he does. And it began to understand more about how he sees the world because his idol sees the world a certain way too. And he said, well, he talks about being tough and being strong and not quitting. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, when I was playing soccer, I wanted to give up soccer. And as I started hearing him talk about like not quitting and not giving up and not being soft, it made me tougher. And I was like, okay. So imagine if you take enough cuts of the conversation with that man, with Tate, you can find some clips that sound isolated like powerful things. Work out, eat healthy, take care of your body, find mental strength. And if you take those individually and put them together, it sounds like the person is spewing nothing but philosophy about better, healthy living. But if you're not careful, you will miss the fact that what he's spewing in between the powerful, strong, healthy living is the ability to say, I'm going to take advantage of you if you let it happen to you. I'll take your money. I'll convince you to give me more money. I'll make you feel bad when you stop wanting to give me money. And if I have the power, I will take the money from you and you can do nothing about it. And I really sat and listened to this young man for about 10 minutes, go on and on and on. And I was just like taking it in because I needed to understand. I needed to better understand what would ignite a young man to boldly proclaim who your idol is of a man who is doing things in the world that is so harmful. And what I've learned since that young conversation with that 6th grader is that so many other young men have found power in the words that they get clipped out on social media. And yet some of them are not willing to even understand the other side. I saw a group of high school students who said that they were big fans of Andrew Tate. The video of him when he said he took advantage of people, and he took advantage of those men and kept taking their money and convincing them that he was going to do things for them that he couldn't do, he wouldn't do, because he said, well, if I didn't take advantage of them, I mean, they must be weak. If I didn't take advantage of them, somebody else would, so might as well be me. And these young men had a hard time trying to, after they heard him say it with his own words, they had a hard time grappling with how do they process the fact that they admired this person. They admired him. Okay, so I just want to name that part because I think that helps me connect you to what's happening in this idea of this manosphere, right? Like what's happening with men and what's happening with men and boys, where are the conversations that they're having in isolation, where they get to have conversations of things that they're confused about. And there's a movie, apparently, there's a new series out that I have not seen yet, but I'm going to be checking it out real soon. And so maybe I'll just name it here. Maybe you've heard of it. It's on Netflix. It's called Adolescence. Now, I have not seen it yet, so I'm not telling you to watch it or not. I'm just naming that I've just heard about it today. Literally, I heard about it twice today for the first time. So I will be finding a way to get access to it so I can watch it. But I did see a movie called Manodrome just a couple of months ago. And look, I want to tell you, I don't know your thoughts about movies or what you like about movies, but this movie was dark. I mean, it was dark. I think that, one of the actors you may know, Jesse Eisenberg, was in it. And in this story, he finds this circle of men who seem to be really doing amazing things. Like they're strong, they're tough, they're working together, they're brotherhood. But when he gets in there, he realized there's a lot of behavior in there that's actually not in alignment with what he thinks. But while he's in there, he's getting sucked in. He's about to be a father. He's trying to find how to be a good man. I think he loses his job. And now he's like, I got to find a job. And then there's all these things that are starting to cause him to act in different ways. He then moves into I don't want to give away the story. I haven't given away anything yet, but except to tell you that it's complex. As a man who's also on a men's team, I've been on a men's team for 15 years. When you watch that documentary or that movie, Manodrome, you will see these things that pop out and you say, oh man, I hope that somebody would be able to see the signs of things that are happening unhealthily, behaviors that are not supporting them, behaviors that are actually dangerous for them. You would hope they can see it. But we know over and over again, people get sucked into beliefs of things that actually are not healthy for them. Okay, so the Manosphere, Manodrome, the movie, the new series that just came out apparently is getting a lot of rave reviews, so please check that out. And for those of you who are educators or parents or cousins or big brothers and friends in the community, if we don't see how destroying education would create more sixth graders like who are saying their idols are these people who are willing to hurt others at their benefit, if we don't see how removing teachers and educators from special needs programs, from the Title I programs, schools that are the most in need, if we don't see how removing those supports from those schools, if we don't see how removing educators, peer educators, para-educators who help teachers see things that they're not able to see because they're navigating really difficult classrooms, if we begin to pull those resources away, we're going to create more who in his own way is just doing his best. Just doing his best. He's trying to just be a guy in the world who can attract young ladies, and he thinks that there's a man who's going to help him do it, even if he's doing it in such a way that will harm others. And so I invite you not to be sitting alone in the idea that it gets better by ourselves. So please, when we think of some ideas in some ways, please, maybe you already have some ideas of what you can do to make it better. We're going to do our best to try and provide some resources and tools, but it's connected. And it will be connected to what happens in our own communities. And every community is going to be different. If your kid is going to a private school right now where you're paying $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 for high school, middle school education, your kids are probably going to feel less of it. If your kids going to a public or charter school where lunch is provided for them as an extra meal for the day, and they are trying to figure out how to navigate and get to a place in life that they want to be with all the cuts, there is going to be a cost. I just hope you don't miss what the cost is going to be. I hope the cost is, and when I talk about the cost, I'm not always talking about financial cost. I'm talking about a cost of safety, a cost of well-being, a cost of social connection, because they're pulling it away. They're pulling it away. So stay tuned for the opportunity for you to get involved. Stay tuned for the ways that you can do something in your own community to make it better. And I'll do my best to find ways that we can do something together. And if you're not a part of the advocates community, I encourage you to join there. I think that will help to build some community with you and other people who care about how our boys and young men connect to their education and to their lives and to their futures. What we are experiencing not only now, after 2 episodes ago when I talked to you about the Department of Education. So remember, March 11th, there's a letter sent out to the employees of the Department of Education. The letter said, hey, go home. At the end of the day, take your laptops with you. Don't come back till Friday. And I found out right before I recorded the episode. So I was like, hey, just so you know, I imagine something's going to happen. I imagine something a little bit out of pocket is going to happen. I had a feeling. I didn't know what, but I had a feeling. And I wasn't willing to predict, but I was predicting that something crazy was going to happen on that day off. Well, I was wrong. Nothing crazy really happened on that day off. It was the same day. It was the same day, the letter that told them to go home and don't come back till Friday. In that same letter, you can feel the energy pushing through these words, right? In the same letter, they sent another letter a couple of hours later in the same day, letting them know that they will be reducing the force by 50%. They were reducing the Department of Education employees by 50%. Now, before this all happened, there were 4,000, give you the number, 4,133 employees. They began putting out these letters saying, hey, you better volunteer. You better voluntarily separate yourself. You better defer resignation. You better do something. You better get out of here. 600 people accepted. Actually, the exact number is 572. 259 accepted the deferred resignation program. 313 accepted the voluntary separation incentive payment. 572 people left on their own. And then that day, when they told people to go home, people were like, okay, I'm sure they felt something about it. I knew something was up, because you know that when shady people are being shady, you can know that anything they're doing is a shady act next to it, connected to it, wound and twined in between it. And what they did on that same day is they let 50% of folks know most of you won't be coming back. Now, they have until March 21st to keep their jobs. So March 21st, that's when they're for real gone. But that literally meant they had 2 weeks to get everything figured out. I imagine pass on projects and close up this and that. But what I'm clear to tell you is that it's probably not over. That so far, the force has been reduced down from 4,133 to 2,183. That's a reduction of 1,950 people. You take away the 572 folks who volunteered themselves to go. That's another 1,300, more than 1,300 who were released. Man, oh man. That was no pun intended to the conversation about the Manosphere or the Manodrome. But man, oh man, what happens when we have a power in the hands of perpetual adolescence? We have a system right now of government that's trusted that there will be certain things that we just do, that there's a convention of how we do things. And what we're seeing right now is that convention was only as strong as any possible consequence for not following along with that convention. And since we don't have any consequences for not following along with some of these conventions, we're experiencing what people would call, let me see, what's the best philosophical way to describe it? A shit show. Yeah? Is that a good word for you? A shit show. not only the people who have lost their jobs, now some of them are going to get a little severance pay, a couple of months of pay, something like that until June, actually 1-2 months. Like that's not even, it's your career has now been upended in a matter of days, weeks, that you are now trying to figure out, well, what do I do next? Yes. Oh, thank you for giving me this 2 months of pay to figure it out. Then what do I do for the rest of the year? What do I do now? I'm in the middle of summer with kids who have summer events and things to do, and now I don't have a job. I am just like saying, look, we're not done cleaning up all the mess. We're not even done with the mess yet, so we don't know what we have to clean up. But what we are seeing over and over again is that there is something going on. And so let me just say to you, if those of you who care about education, like I'm gonna do my best in the next several weeks to really dig in and figure out what we can be doing, because there's something we have to be able to do. This morning, I sent a text to some men who I'm in a group with about what Parker Palmer calls the tragic gap, and I think it's better if I try and read it really explicitly, clearly, so I don't say it wrong. But I know what it feels like it means. But I want to make sure I have it in a good way for you. The tragic gap. So the Tragic Gap by Parker Palmer, I say old and not age, but he's a Quaker educator. He's a teacher, author. And he said the tragic gap defined is to refer to the space between what is and what could be. The chasm between the difficult realities of life and the potential for something better. You see it? The gap in between there. And he's asking us to stand in the gap. He says it's crucial that you stand in the tragic gap, meaning to hold both the despairing realities of what we feel that's happening right now and the hopeful possibilities of where we're going, rather than succumbing to just cynicism or naive idealism. It's one way to be like, this is never going to change. My life is stuck. I can't move. Nothing's going to get better. That's the cynicism, right? Or to be like, oh, life is going to be so great. Don't worry. Don't worry. Things have been worse before. It's going to get better. The naive idealism that says, oh, I'm just going to ignore the fact that something tragic is happening right now. I'm just going to, but he's asking us to stand in the gap. And I hope that over this next season, whatever this season is going to be, because for many people, it's getting even harder. People who are losing their medical care, people who are being deported and they're actually citizens or they're green card holders, people who are being caught up in the mix because people are not operating out of a place of empathy, kindness, care, love. They're operating out of a place of power. And what I'm going to invite you to do is over these next couple of weeks, I'm going to do my best to figure out what can we be doing? What are the tasks that we can be taking? What are the sometimes small and maybe sometimes you're going to be a little bit require us to do some work. Like, like I got some pain in my hips and my legs. I'm probably not going to be doing a whole lot of long walks, but I have a voice and I have some thoughts and I have some opportunity to have conversations and I have a little bit of intelligence to try and move something forward to make it better for everyone to get involved in some way. Find the lane that you can get involved in, but we cannot sit back and just hope it gets better and feel it will never get better, even though sometimes it feels right to do so. So, okay, listen, I will hope that today, that as we talked into these three areas, that you are, depending on where you are in the world, maybe you are watching the news and you're noticing what's happening with men and boys, and you know that there's something going on that we need to have these more conversations about. If you are in that boat, I'm inviting you to join our Advocates for Young Men community. It's on school. We'll put the link in the show notes. Get involved with a group who is doing some work to try and make the world a better place, especially for the ones who need it the most. If you are a person who is not aware of what's going on, maybe go out and watch some of these documentaries that are coming out. The Mask You Live In, which turned 10 years old this year. It's the work that our work was featured in, where the mask movement was created. Get involved there. Watch the documentary. Show it to your sons or your nephews or your cousins, to even your nieces. Show it to everyone. They all need to know what's going on in the world. They all need to have the conversation about them. But we can't wait. Can't wait to just hope that it's going to get better. The hope is going to require some action. Stand in the gap from where we are in this chaotic situation to where we're heading. And for your sons out there who are looking at social media, who are in the social media world, I met a young man the other day when I asked him, who do you follow on social media? He's a teenager. He said, I don't have social media. I was like, oh, okay. I said, so how do you communicate with your friends? Just through text? He's like, yeah. I said, okay. So if your sons are not on social media, maybe that's a good thing. But please don't be surprised by what they're watching. Please be in the mix. Now, am I telling you that it's going to be easy to do? No, I'm not telling you it's easy to do. I'm saying it's actually important to do. I'm not telling you how to parent. I am saying it is important for you to know whose voices are filling your sons and your daughters and your students who may not identify in those binaries, what is filling their ears. It's over and over, we're hearing parents say, I didn't know. I didn't know what they were watching. I didn't know what they were listening to. And I'll just say, if you're paying the bill, you should know. You get to know, right? I imagine you already know that. I'm not even telling you something you already know. But let me just say, please don't be naive of thinking that they're going to come and tell you everything they're listening to that may be different in opinion of what you may have or outside the values that you have. Don't be misled, please, parents. Over and over, our kids are out here harming themselves and others. And they've been brewing in the mess for weeks and months and months. And then someday it just gets too much. So please don't let yourself be surprised. Please get in conversation. Start with the conversations and begin setting some boundaries about what they're allowing to be filtrated through their ears and their minds and these very impressionable minds. So that's all I got for you today, folks. I probably got a lot more, but I'm going to stop right there. I think that's a good place for us to end. And I'm looking forward to over the next weeks that you get involved. If you're in the Bay Area, we have a dance-a-thon coming up. It's a big event for us. It is our non-sponsor sponsor, which is this year's 21st annual community challenge. If you haven't been involved with any of our events over the last 21 years, this will be the year. 21 years doing this work in this community. You can participate in person here in the Bay Area or virtually. We're still trying to figure out how the virtual is going to work, but it's a dance-a-thon, a 5-hour dance party, costume party. We'll figure out how the live stream is going to work, through what platforms. We'll give you more details later, but just get registered and we look forward to seeing you there. $50 is the registration. You can pay it. You can pay more. You can raise money for us. You can help us get the word out to people in your community, but we will get you more details. But if you just are able to share it with the world, help us get the word out. That would be so great. We'll put that also in the show notes here, and we will see you soon. Thank you for being a part of Talking with Male Educators, Taking Off the Mask podcast. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye now.